So the right answer for a topless wing is to remove the wing, get it on the ground, fold it up, and just go ahead and replace the cables and build the wing as normal. I'm going to show you what I do personally, and there is a high level of risk of collapsing the wing doing it this way if you don't understand all of the forces involved. Once you understand what to look for, this is a way that I can change out the cables in about maybe 10-15 minutes, something like that, with the wing on the trike. And it may look a little hokey, but it's the fastest way to change cables, and I'm going to show you how I do it. Larry Mednick here. So today we are going to be changing out the lower rigging, the cables that are underneath the wing. And so this is a customer's aircraft, and on his last, he noticed it before, but when he went to have the annual inspection done, the A&P looked at some of the cables and said, yeah, no, we need these replaced. I fully agree. So let's take a look at what that looks like. And so right here, and again, you know, I don't think that this is a major problem at all, but this is aviation, and anything less than perfection is unacceptable, in my opinion. Also, he added some ACF 50. We had some corrosion in this Nico press here. And a lot of these guys do like to fly out to the beach. And so even though these are stainless steel cables, they can definitely get some surface rust going. And that's why you'll see in our maintenance manual, we do have them scheduled to be replaced periodically. So it's about $100 for a set of cables. And if you're somebody that owns a king posted wing, this video is definitely not for you. In fact, the way we're gonna do the cable change is only pretty much going to work on a REVOLT, and I'll explain a little bit more why. But on a king posted wing, the king post on top of the wing has cables that come down and support the wing. Now we're topless, so if you back up, you're going to see that this wing is completely no structure up on top of the wing, which means that the wing struts right now, while it's sitting here, are in compression. Now what do the wing struts go to? Well, they go to the control bar, and the control bar right now is in compression, right? The wings are pushing down. I have a force going this way, and I have forces coming through the control bar. Well, how does that tie into what these cables are doing at the moment? Well, these cables are keeping the control bar square, meaning if I went ahead and cut these cables with a cutter, the control bar would try to turn 90 degrees from the pressure on both ends of it. So it wouldn't just want to keep the control bar straight, it would want to swap ends with the control bar, which would allow the wingtips to drop and the wing struts to come in. And so as soon as you start to remove even one cable, this wing is at jeopardy of collapsing. Now you might have actually collapsed a wing because you didn't realize this. I know I've heard stories of people going to change it out and they get this big surprise, and the wings come down and they straighten out the control bar and get it put back together again. But you have two areas that you can expect damage on if that were to happen. So the first one is going to be the cross tubes. In our case, we don't use a ball and socket, we use a plate assembly, and those plates will bend. And then up in the nose junction area, we have two plates as well, and those plates will bend. We can see that better on a single surface wing. Come on in here. And so a little bit hidden, you can see it up in the swan catch area, but those plates there are made to swivel the leading edges in one axis, which is to fold the wing back. But if the wingtips were to drop to the ground, you would damage that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by loosening the fasteners. I'm going to take the nuts not completely off of all the cable connection points, and I'm going to get them to where I can just use my fingertips to remove the nut. And so I'm going to take this guy loose, the opposite one, the swan catch assembly, we're going to leave that connected, but then in the back here on our tension equalizer where the cable attaches, I'm going to go ahead, pull the safeties, and again bring that nut down to where I can just remove it by hand very quickly when I'm ready to make the swap. Okay, so what I've gone ahead and done off camera is I've just loosened up every one of these nuts, and we'll be replacing these with new nuts anyway, but basically you see how that's just finger tight, and I can pull that off And you notice I'm holding it to make sure that doesn't come out, or could have some issues. So just kind of getting those set. So all the connection points are done. Now I want to point out these cables are pretty tight. So being able to think that we could even possibly connect the cables with this tension, that's a whole nother problem. So again, very specific to the REVOLT or any of our products, we do have a way to loosen up the cables on the ground. So this is going to be unique, and if you have a different style of trike, you may not understand exactly why this is happening. But basically, I'm going to go ahead and film the hang block assembly. I'm going to move the hang block back by simply pulling the wing like so. And now come over here to the cables. I want to show you that I've created slop in the cable. Look at that. Now, you think I could pull that cable off of there without any problem? The answer is yes. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to lock the wing into this position. This wing does not want to be in this position except when it's in flight, in which case the front cables go tight. The rear cables stay loose when we're in full slow trim, which allows the keel to articulate more, which gives us better roll handling at slow speed. And so as soon as we move the control bar forward, which is kind of our step after this, the trim is going to go back to fast, and that's going to tighten my cables, which I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this in by installing a trim collar around the keel. And so we just put this right here and right here. Put these two halves together, like so, and I'll go ahead and get it started. And I'm going to slide that all the way back to the hang block assembly. Doesn't matter the rotation of the collar at all. So however you can get to the bolts easiest is good. And you can use a strap if you don't have one of these collars, but if you'd like to order a collar, we have them in stock, we can send out. And that's about it. Don't have to go crazy. There's not going to be a lot of force on that. But what that's going to allow us to do now is I'm going to be able to bring the control bar back forward again and keep the cables loose with it forward, which we could not do before. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to really tighten up my wing Velcro. And this is why I said at the beginning of this video, this is very specific to a REVOLT. If you have, say, a Revo, everything's exactly the same as what I'm showing you, except we just have a single compression strut in the center. So when you tie it there, there's no way to stop the control bar from twisting. And the way you do it on a Revo is have two of your strongest friends get into like a horse stance and hold on to the down tube. And that way, when the A-frame tries to twist, you've got two people, one on each side of the A-frame, holding it from twisting. We've got this lovely wing securing system that does a great job, and we're going to use it to secure the wing nice and tight. And because we're connected in 2 points instead of one, now the control bar cannot twist. And quite frankly, I trust this a lot more than I trust a couple of strong guys to hold the control. So now I've eliminated that. Everything's more or less loose, and we can grab our new cables. So if you take a look at these cables, you have two fronts and two rears. They're pretty easy to identify. So I've got these all lined up, and you notice these ends are basically all the same. Now they are marked, but as we come up to this side, not only are they a different length, the front cables that go to the forged hoop are going to have this end on them. And then the rear cables will have this end on them as well. So now I know which is which, and we're going to start the swap process. We're definitely going to need a ladder for this. I'm going to just go ahead and remove the bottom of the nose cone. And that's going to kind of expose what I need to get at to change out these cables. Okay, I'll go ahead and I can release this swan catch by hand. But before I do that, we want to make sure the wing doesn't fall over backwards. Now the rival X that I'm working on happens to be statically balanced, so it'd probably more or less stay, but any kind of wind, somebody leans on it, we just don't have stability once these cables go away. I'm going to come up, get a good anchor there, and we got plenty of length now, and I'm going to come down. These fork triple trees are a nice spot to just kind of be able to hook onto, so we'll just go ahead and thread that, and we'll come to here, and then we'll start ratcheting. And I don't want to go too tight because I don't want to apply too much tension to my rear cables either. So that's about it. That should be fine. And now I'm in a position where I can disconnect the swan catch, which we do by removing this thumb nut. And this wing is still safe because of everything we've talked about so far. Okay, so this is that forged hoop we were talking about. And you can see we've got some corrosion on this AN bolt as well. Go ahead and remove the bolt, like so. And we can put that down in our parts tray. And so far you can see I've only taken off 2 safeties and 1 nut, and now this bolt, and then these just slide off. I can set that down.
Can you do that again? Sorry.
This just slides off just like that.
Perfect.
And now we can rest our cables down. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and replace this hardware, and we're going to rebuild that swan catch with the brand new cables. So we're going to start there. Okay, so now I'm working with, these are the new cables, they're not hooked up to anything, and we're going to go ahead and rebuild this nose assembly. So we just slip it in, slip it on, put our bolt through, and then I went ahead and got a new nut. On the wing, I would definitely not recommend reusing a nylock nut more than once. And remember, every connection on this wing is critical. There's nothing that is, there's no fastener on this wing that the wing can fly without. So we just need to be extra careful. And this is an area where a lot of people get this wrong. They'll actually tighten things down until it feels tight, and what they'll do is they'll actually squeeze this hoop together, and it will not really fit like it should or at all back into that swan catch assembly. So just snug it down, don't go crazy with it. And then I'm going to go to the back up, and I'm going to connect just these dead cables up to the swan catch area. Put this in, put that in, and we can go ahead and put the safety on and everything at this point. Now it's time to work on the back of the wing. I'm going to put my ladder right here, and we're going to need another strap to hold the back of the wing down, because once I disconnect those cables, the wing could possibly tilt forward. So we're going to hold that in place. All right, so however you'd like to do it, there's no wrong way or right way, I don't think. I'm going to kind of just come around. I'm going to run my rope right in front of my antenna bracket. I'm going to go around my roll cage here and tighten it up right here. And so now what I'm looking to do is, you see my cables are tight on the rear. Because I pulled there, I'm going to go ahead and pull some more on the back. And I want them a little. That ought to work. Now I'm going to go ahead. I am safe to remove my hardware that's holding my rear cables on. And the cool thing about the tension equalizer is only one of the 2 cables will actually even be tight. So go ahead and remove the hardware so it doesn't fall down into your engine. So sometimes putting a towel over this area if you think you might drop anything down that way, it's a good idea. If you've ever tried to find a washer in a Rotex 912, you know my pain. All right, so that's kind of disconnected and ready to go. I can disconnect the one side here. Very careful. I'm kind of making sure that nothing came apart. And then I can take my hardware apart again here. And I'm going to grab one of my two new cables and go ahead and, so it's bolt, washer, nylon. And so that gives us nice rotation there because this all does rotate. We'll come up, put this guy through, nylon again, washer.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
And then I'm just going to put this on by hand and get it started. And then this one is pretty much super loose, so we'll go ahead and do this one. And that bolt's a little bit stuck in there. I'm going to just give it a turn. There it comes. Okay. And now we'll do the same to this side. And I can just kind of let this cable, I'm going to just toss it over the side like that. Grab our new cable. Same thing again. I'm going to build it the exact same way. There and there. I'll drop this cable on that side, but basically this comes through here like so. And by the way, putting a nut on halfway is a real dangerous thing to do, only because if you forget to tighten it up, that could be a problem. And so main thing is we're going to check these connections, all of them, 3 times before this thing is ready to fly. So now I can come off the ladder. I can come over to my old hardware, remove this very effortlessly. And now I've got to take off my 2 spacers, my string. Don't forget to put your string back on when you're done, and get rid of these nasty cables. So I'm going to start off by bringing over my front cable, and I want to get the orientation right. If you put a twist in this, that will change the length of the cable. So really try to feel it out and see. Sometimes it'll come up like sideways and you're not sure which way to go. So you can probably go either way on that, but just make sure there's not more than 1 twist in it. And with that, I can come over here, put my second cable on. Again, it's the same thing. I really need to make sure I don't mount it like this when it should be like this. So I'm really wanting to make sure that all the twist is out. Put it on, put my 2 spacers on. And because I have a tension equalizer, this is going to go in quite easily and effortlessly. And I'll show you what's happening up top on this one. The string is on. I kind of maybe didn't say it, but I put it on. And so we go ahead and put this in. I'm going to go ahead and grab a brand new nut. Put the new nut on. Again, I'm just going to do this by hand real quick. And we're going to come back with a wrench, tighten up everything. Now, if you come up and take a look at the tension equalizer, you'll see it's angled. And that's the reason I was able to effortlessly do one side first. There's just, if I need more tension, I can have more tension. And now we'll just do the other side. It will be a little bit more difficult because now everything's going to get fairly tight. And so putting this bolt back in is just a little bit trickier than the first side because it's going to be tight. And so I'll show you what the difference is there. So pull this guy out, get rid of these old cables completely. And we're going to fish the front cable here down. But this time, instead of bringing it all the way up to the head, that's not going to get it. We have to choke it up because we're going to be dealing with tension. So we're going to bring this one over. Now we can put in our spacers. And as you mentioned, we're going to put our cable in. And already I could tell you I'm tight, really, really tight with this. So I'm going to set my nut and washer down so I have both hands to kind of work this. But If the cable's out here, that's just going to take up more distance. So we really need to bring these cables in, and I'm just trying my very best to force this in to the hole. So let's see how this goes. So I'm having trouble just getting my string back on. And so here we go. Make sure my string is not pinched, which can happen very easily when I do that side. And it's still pinched. So just work your string around so it doesn't get caught behind your spacers. You may need a screwdriver or something like that, but I'm doing it with my finger right here. And now, push it in, line it up. We're gonna get set our nuts on by hand. And we've replaced all 4 cables. And so my next move that I can do is I can disconnect this guy here. That's not doing a thing anymore. So I can just, there we go. That's off. Now I can remove the rear one. Just kind of push that back through. So now the cables are doing their jobs again, even though none of the nuts are tight. And now it is time to tighten these guys up. You can see this is really pulling away there. But
and the equalizer is straight again.
yeah, equalizer is going to be straight because the wing is level and the tension is equal between all of the cables. And so sometimes to put the safety in on these bolts, you have to really snug this thing down. But remember, we don't want this connection snug. That's one of the reasons that we're going to use a safety. So right now, I can't turn the tang at all because I've really crushed down my nylons. But what that's going to do is it's going to make it easy for me to put my safety back in. And so my safety is this little ring. And go right here. I'm going to put that guy in. And now I need to back this up. So we're going to go here and here. I'm going to loosen it. And now if the tang moves freely, but it's still, you know, together. We don't want slop there, but I need this to be able to move. And so that side's done. And so same thing again. When you're tightening down the nylocks as well, you want to make sure that you don't go incredibly fast. The speed I'm going is probably on the fast side, to be honest. The faster you go, the more friction you get, the more heat you get, the more compromised the locking mechanism actually gets. So, but again, we don't even need a nylock here because we have the safety. And now on the down tubes, we have something else to be concerned about. So a lot of times I've actually heard the question, which is, what's the torque spec on these AN4s, Larry? Well, the problem is we're going through hollow aluminum tubing. So before the bolt would ever stretch, it's simply going to compress and possibly compromise the aluminum extrusion. So this is a snug fit. We don't need this to rotate at all, so it can be snug enough that the tangs are pretty much, you know, stuck. But if you look at where I'm holding the wrench, if that gives you an idea, I'm not way out on the handle. I'm in nice and tight. And I'm using a mini wrench too. This is going to be helpful to make sure that I am aware of the torque that I'm using. But as soon as that compresses, that's it. I could turn this another 4 times around and just crush this tube. And then this aircraft would not be airworthy. So very, very, very careful. And that is your leading edges, your down tubes, your wing struts, even your control bar. You don't crush because it's hollow and it's aluminum. So very easy to do. Come over here, do this side as well. That's it. All right, now like I said, we're gonna just start checking. We've got check in the back, we're connected. Also, something I did not mention before I put them on, and I did this before we started viewing the video, is that you want to quality control check the parts that are coming. Our parts are quality control checked at 2 factories, but you know, don't leave it to somebody else. Look at what you're installing, make sure this thing didn't get damaged in shipping. Who knows? But these are critical parts on the wing, And you want to definitely do a very good inspection of the Nico presses. Make sure they're not damaged. Make sure everything looks right. If you're not sure of a cable or how to inspect a cable or what you're looking for, stop. Get the cables inspected by somebody that can verify that, you know, they're in good shape. But these are critical to flight. They're critical for the aircraft just sitting on the ground. And that's how we do it. We come over here. We're going to check this area here. I'm going to check this area here on this side. And now I'm going to use the ladder. And I'm actually going to disconnect the control bar. I want to get my nose up in the swan catch area so that I'm close to it and not looking from 4 feet away, which is a definite no-no. Guys have looked up at that swan catch, thought it looked good, and there was you know, something, you know, they forgot to connect, and they just couldn't see it because it's so high. Now I'm at a distance that I can inspect the bolt that I removed to release everything, and also the other bolts and pins that hold all this together. Again, checking my Nico presses, looking for any frays or damage to the cable. And with that said, I can re-secure my nose cone. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and remove that collar that is holding the control bar back. And again, just want to point out, we do have some slop, quite a bit of slop in the cables. And so we'll go ahead and loosen this guy up. And you're going to notice it's already, I don't know if you saw that slide, but this is going to slide, yep, into fast trim just like that. Now the cables are tight and we can continue to remove this collar. But obviously you'd be stuck in slow trim. And quite frankly, if you tried to trim it, you would pop a fuse. So take that guy out. And then just be careful when you take this loose. These collars can fall down and scratch paint and do all kinds of wonderful things. So just make sure you've got a grip. With my right hand, I'm holding both halves, not just one half. Removing the screws completely. And if you need to, give yourself a little extra space to get your hand in. And we take that guy out and take that guy out. Watch your fingers too, because it's going to slide all the way up there. So make sure you don't get your fingers caught in there. But now our collar's out. And now we're done. Hey, thanks for watching. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to call. My number is 813-810-9262. I'm happy to help you, even if you're not a customer. It's just so technical to change cables on a wing. Simple enough if you understand all the forces or the procedure, but if you're not sure, take the wing off, take the wing apart, replace your parts, put it back together again. This could have gone horribly wrong if I missed just one step. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to learn more about trikes or already fly trikes, check out trikeaction.com, where the action is.